Have you ever wondered just how far Formula One teams are willing to go to keep their engines roaring on the world's most iconic tracks? Behind the vibrant colors and shiny logos plastered on the cars, there exists a dark underworld of negotiations that go beyond what you see on TV broadcasts. In this video, we'll dive into stories of empty promises, scandals that rock the sport, and deals made in the shadows. It's the kind of truth that few dare to reveal but is crucial to understanding how money truly drives the gears of this high-speed sport. And believe me, what you're about to discover here might change the way you see every sticker slapped on those million-dollar machines. If you think you've seen it all in F1, get ready to be surprised. The high stakes of F1 sponsorships. For many, Formula One is synonymous with speed and glamour. However, behind the lights and roaring engines lies a parallel universe of million-dollar negotiations. Keeping a car competing on the world's most famous tracks requires an exorbitant amount of money, which isn't always readily available in team coffers. That's where sponsors come in, often presented as saviors, but in some cases, they can be compared to authentic villains in disguise. For the gearheads who closely follow the relationship between teams and these financial partners, it can be both a blessing and a curse. It's important to understand that in their quest to remain competitive, Formula One teams find themselves forced to form alliances. Balance. The money that comes in can keep the dream alive for another season, but at what cost? For the gearheads who love the adrenaline of races, it's hard to ignore the fact that without these funds, many cars wouldn't even make it out of the pit lane. However, as we'll see next, not all these deals are what they seem at first glance. Rich Energy Scandal. The story of Rich Energy is a perfect example of how appearances can be deceiving, especially in the fast-paced world of Formula One. When this energy drink brand entered the scene, it seemed that the Haas team had found the ideal sponsor to challenge the giants of the category. However, for the more attentive gearheads, what started as a promising partnership quickly turned into a scandal of epic proportions. It was as if the fairy tale had rapidly turned into a nightmare, leaving the Haas team in an embarrassing position and fans scratching their heads. Initially, Rich Energy was seen as a British alternative to the industry giants, promising not only competition but also innovation. But as time passed, the promises began to seem emptier than the cans that should have been on store shelves. Few products, no solid financial history, and a series of lawsuits quickly eroded the brand's credibility. The gearheads who dug deeper realized there was something very wrong with this story, and that the impact could be devastating for the Haas team. As the drama unfolded, Rich Energy continued to attract attention, but not for the right reasons. With bombastic statements on social media and a CEO who seemed more interested in creating controversies than supporting the team, the situation went from bad to worse. For the gearheads who follow Formula One, the Rich Energy saga became a real case study on how not to do sponsorships. The promise of millions turned into debts, and what was left was a team trying to salvage what could still be saved from a failed partnership. This episode serves as a reminder that in the world of business, and especially in Formula One, not everything that glitters is gold. The Rich Energy brand may have disappeared from the scene, but the impact of the scandal was felt for a long time. And for the gearheads who were keeping an eye on the situation, it was clear that this story would still have unexpected developments. But as we'll see ahead, this wasn't the only case of dubious sponsorship on the tracks. Nigerian Prince Scheme. World of sponsorships, one should be wary of offers that seem like a winning ticket. But why did the Arrows team fall into this trap? Desperation. Tobacco sponsorship loopholes. The world of Formula One and the big tobacco corporations have a long and intertwined history. When regulations began tightening the noose on cigarette advertising, many believed that tobacco brands would disappear from the tracks. But to the surprise of some and the satisfaction of others, these companies found creative ways to maintain their presence. For the gearheads who follow the evolution of the sport, the use of legal loopholes to continue advertising was both ingenious and controversial. One of the most emblematic cases is that of Philip Morris International, which, despite the bans, managed to remain visible through initiatives like Mission Winnow. This name, which at first glance may not seem associated with tobacco, actually carries the essence of a brand that refuses to disappear from the tracks. The more attentive gearheads noticed that although the traditional logo had disappeared from the cars, the brand's essence was still there, resonating in the details and the indirect association they maintained with the races. It's intriguing how these companies managed to adapt, using tactics that border on brilliance to circumvent the rules. For the gearheads who study these maneuvers, the case of Mission Winnow is a true example of how advertising can transform and camouflage itself to survive in a regulated environment. The irony is that while the sport tries to distance itself from associations with tobacco, the old sponsors still find ways to leave their mark, even if in a disguised manner. But this isn't just a story of adaptation and survival. It also raises questions about the ethics and limits of advertising in the sport. For the more critical gearheads, the continued presence of these brands on the tracks is a constant reminder that no matter how much the laws change, the power of money and influence often finds a way to impose itself. However, for many, these strategies are not just a matter of commercial survival but a direct challenge to the sport's morality. To what extent is Formula One willing to go to keep these sponsors, and what are the long-term implications for the sport's image? Pyramid schemes and dubious apps. In the realm of Formula One partnerships, some stories seem straight out of a movie script. A perfect example of this is the case of the iTime app, which sponsored the Austrian Grand Prix in 2018. For many gearheads, the presence of an unknown company in the world of racing already raised suspicions, but what followed was a true cautionary tale for the fan and investor community. In a short time, the truth behind iTime came to light, revealing itself to be nothing more than a digital pyramid scheme. The proposal of iTime was apparently innovative, an app that promised to revolutionize the way people manage their time and tasks. But for the gearheads who observed more closely, there was something odd about the way the app was being promoted. The promise of high financial returns in exchange for simple personal investments quickly began to unravel, and the indications that it was a scam became increasingly evident. For those familiar with the world of investments, iTime became a classic example of how extravagant promises often hide dangerous traps. The impact on the F1 world was significant. It not only tarnished the reputation of the team that accepted the sponsorship but also served as a warning to other teams about the need to verify the legitimacy of their partners. For the gearheads, it was a clear demonstration that not everything that glitters is gold, and in a sport where every penny counts, it's crucial to always be vigilant. The iTime case showed that in the world of sponsorships, danger can come disguised as innovation. This situation also highlighted an uncomfortable truth. Formula One teams, pressured by the need for funding, sometimes accept deals that, in hindsight, prove disastrous. iTime wasn't the first, nor will it be the last example of a company that managed to deceive an F1 team, but it served as a warning for everyone, including gearheads, to be wary of promises that seem too good to be true. In a world where speed is everything, taking the time to investigate the details can be the difference between success and ruin. After learning about the dark side of Formula One sponsorships, the question remains, how far would you go to achieve success? What would you do if you were in these teams' shoes, with everything on the line and increasingly limited options? The truth is, the world isn't black and white, and the decisions we make often place us in gray areas. But it's precisely in these areas that true learning takes place. And now, knowing what happens behind the scenes, how will you apply this knowledge to your life? Are you willing to make difficult but conscious choices? Leave your comment and share your reflections. And of course, if you want to keep exploring the mysteries and truths that few know about the world of motorsport, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. That way, you won't miss any of the upcoming revelations.